Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd, fa'auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Sadaqallahul azim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Continuing with Surah Baqarah, ayah number 98, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم من كان عدوا لله وملائكته ورسله وجبريل وميكال فإن الله عدو للكافرين صدق الله العظيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this ayah, whoever is an enemy to Allah and His angels and His messengers and Jibreel and Mikael alayhissalaam, then indeed Allah Ta'ala is an enemy to the disbelievers. So this ayah is in close meaning and context to the previous ayah that we looked in the last session. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah, having closely connected to the previous one, concludes that Allah Ta'ala has enmity towards those who are enemies of His angels. So in this instance, we're looking at something that is of relationship with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala as a result of the behavior of people, any people, towards a creation of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, in this instance, the angels. And such is this relationship and response that if these particular creations, the angels, are looked upon in a negative manner, if people have hatred towards them or disbelief in them or any kind of enmity of that sort, then it invites the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala towards those people. Now, this may be because, and easily understood, because if we look at the fact that angels in their nature, they are completely and absolutely obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's like they are a manifestation of the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in their angelic form, made out of a nur, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best its constituents, what that substance is. But they have a it's not light as in on earth where it's you can just put your hand through it. It's something which has substance, solidity to it of some form or other. And of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the true nature of all these things. We have been given some information about the angels, their structure, their construction being out of nur, out of a light, but we don't know the exact nature of this. However, what these angels are is, as I say, absolutely obedient, and they actually don't have what we as human beings and the jinn have, which is a nafs, an ego. So they don't have that. They're completely loyal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without the slightest question. And this is where we differ with the Christian belief, where they talk about such a thing as fallen angels. And fallen angels are angels that have disobeyed Allah Ta'ala, and as a result of that, they've incurred the wrath of God and they've fallen to earth. So this is something which is completely unknown to the deen of Islam. Angels completely are obedient and loyal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no such thing as an angel being even having second thoughts or hesitating in its function towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all. They have pure love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, genuine devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and absolutely unquestionable loyalty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's no such thing as a fallen angel in Islam. So therefore, they are creatures, beings that are attracted to goodness, to righteousness. Their form, being nur, is symbolic of that, complete light. So righteousness and goodness is also often referred to as nur in the heart, or nur inside the chest, so of a believer. So whether a believing man or a woman, they experience this, they feel it. We don't see it, we sense it if we act upon something in a good manner, if we do something good and we're given some appreciation, and we sense that goodness, that feeling inside the heart that you've done something good, and that is an indicator of that mood, that connection to righteousness, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us, rewarded us, we have pleased Him. And as a result of that, we get this feeling in the heart that when you've done something good. And this is the sort of thing that the angels are made of, that kind of mood. Now, again, Allah Ta'ala knows ultimately the truth about all of this. We are just given some factors, about this, some information, but we can try and piece together some things that is acceptable for us as human beings, as Muslims, and to be able to understand the nature of angels and the nature of things that are pleasing to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So, and another thing is that when somebody does something good, he or she actually invites angels around them, and angels bless that person. And in some narrations, it is also told that angels will actually hug, embrace that person out of joy that this human being has committed such a good act. And they love that. They love to see goodness and righteousness, because that they are constantly in and around the heavens, and they love to be in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, close to Him, because He is the ultimate light, the ultimate goodness, the ultimate being of perfection. So they like that, they love that. And when they see something on earth amongst human beings that shows that goodness, they're attracted to it. There are many hadith concerning Sahaba who would do something, recite Quran or something at Fajr time, and they would see that their animals, their horse or something, becomes agitated. And there's a particular story of this where a Sahabi was reciting Quran at Fajr time, and when he would recite, he found that his horse was becoming agitated, and then he would stop recitation and the horse would calm down. Then he continued the recitation and the horse started becoming agitated again. So eventually he went to see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he relayed this event to him. And Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him that you do not see the unseen. And were you able to, then he told him, explained to him that you would have seen the angels, that they had come down, hearing the recitation of the Quran from you, and they had come down, and they would come down in a pile, one on top of the other, all the way up to the heavens to hear the recitation of the Quran. And the horse was able to detect some of this, and as a result of that, was feeling agitated because of the presence of the angels, which is quite awesome. So this shows us that angels will come to gatherings of goodness, or individuals who do good deeds, pure deeds. And so this is something that explains to us the nature of the angels. So back to the point here, in truth, it's the decree of Allah Ta'ala which the angels simply manifest, and defiance to that is kufr. So in effect, the angels are simply just carrying out the commands of Allah Ta'ala. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need angels. He doesn't need anything and anyone to do anything for him. However, he's created this system of angels and human beings, and all the different means, what we call asbab, of things happening. So this is from the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but all of those things are under the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, under His taqdeer. So the angels are given duties, and the systems created by the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fulfill His commands, so that we can see that happening. And as a result of that, in effect, symbolically, angels are the manifestation of Allah's wish, Allah's choice, Allah's wisdom, Allah's decisions. And just as we understand that defying Allah's choice, being unhappy, unpleased with it, is not the way of a mu'min, and it is close to kufr and leads to kufr if you continue to express it that way, then in the same way, to dislike or be disappointed or to hate the angels of Allah Ta'ala is to hate the decree of Allah Ta'ala, to hate His wisdom, and that is known to be kufr. So in expressing hatred for Jibreel alayhissalaam, the Bani Israeel had therefore invited the enmity of Allah Ta'ala upon those who held such thoughts. So again, not everybody was like that. There are always good people amongst bad people, and bad people amongst good people. In any community throughout the world and throughout human history, wherever there's a community of good people, there will be some people who are bad. And wherever there is bad people, overall they may be bad, but there will always be good elements amongst them. This is again the nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation. So Bani Israel their scholars, some of their learned people, some of their politicians, etc., defied the commands and the actions of Jibreel alayhi. And as I explained in the previous ayah, because Jibreel alayhi had brought destruction upon them on various occasions, they hated him. And as a result of that, this brought upon them the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, note also that the ayah refers to such people as disbelievers. In this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says Allah ta'ala has enmity towards the disbelievers. So that again, it kind of concludes and underlines what I've been saying, that if we are displeased with the angels, if we have hatred towards them, if we are not happy with what the angels do, then it is a displeasure of Allah Ta'ala's taqdeer, and that is kufr. So Allah Ta'ala refers to such people as being kafir. But I'm going to come back to this point a little bit later on, inshallah, when I look at it in terms of the teachings of Islam as well, inshallah, in respect to angels. So let's have a look at this now in relation to ourselves in respect to the teachings of this ayah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم من كان عدوا لله وملائكته ورسله وجبريل وميكال فإن الله عدو للكافرين. صدق الله العظيم. Whoever is an enemy to Allah and His angels and His messengers and Jibreel and Mikael alayhissalaam, then indeed Allah is an enemy to the disbelievers. So before I go further, let me just have a quick look at the main duties of these two angels. The duties of the angels in Jibreel and Mikael alayhissalaam. Jibreel alayhissalam brings revelation and destruction. He brings revelation of the books. So he brought the Torah, the Injil, and the Quran, and the Zabur. And he also brings destruction. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decrees the destruction of a qawm, of a nation, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders Jibreel to take that destruction to them and make it manifest upon them. And so entire civilizations will be destroyed through earthquakes, tornadoes, whatever it is that Allah ta'ala has decreed. Jibreel takes that down to that particular qawm after, of course, that qawm has had invitation to the truth by the particular prophet in that qawm at that time. Mikael alayhissalam, on the other hand, brings rizq. This is the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this will be, it could be money, it could be food, water, rain, and the growth of vegetation, which again leads to rizq, because the growth of vegetation is something that he's particularly responsible for. This is the growth of corn, wheat, barley, etc., crops, fruits, vegetables, and so on. So he's responsible for that. So that's the two angels, Jibreel and Mikael alayhissalaam. And both are therefore manifestations of the decrees of Allah Ta'ala, because destruction is the decree of Allah Ta'ala. Revelation of Allah's kalam is the decree of Allah Ta'ala. And of course, rizq, whether it be through the growth of vegetation and fruits, or whether it be through increase in money, sustenance, increase in blessings of what you have, whatever it is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decrees for you. This is brought to us by Mikael alayhissalam and is again a manifestation of the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So those are the tasks of these two particular angels in the main. So let's have a look at this ayah then. So believers have love and admiration for Jibreel, Mikael alayhissalaam, and all the angels for what they do for them. Because the believers get the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the rizq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the barakah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all brought down upon them, manifest in their lives, manifest in their day-to-day experiences through the angels. The angels bring that food, that money, that increase in barakah, that expansion of their lives, whatever it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed, they bring it. And so the believers love the angels because the angels are a manifestation of Allah's decree. And believers ultimately directly love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have a deep love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The extent of that love is that they love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala above and beyond all other loves. The believers have love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala above and beyond all other loves. This is not to say any other love is forbidden. No, of course not. But I'm talking about jais, permissible loves, recommended loves, love for mother, love for the father, brother, sister, husband, wife, son, daughter, etc. all of these recommended and halal loves, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in the heart of the believers above those loves. They love Him above those loves. That doesn't mean that they don't love the other people. They do love all their different relationships in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Our Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was very much in love with Khadija radiallahu anha, with his daughters. He was very much, he loved them. His sons, he loved them. And it was a kind of thing that is so expansive that Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam had love for even his enemies and wanted best for them. So there's nothing wrong with any of this, but above and beyond that was the love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had. So this is what the believers emulate, as in fact even as part of a sunnah, that to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala above and beyond all of the loves. And it was through Jibreel alayhissalaam that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam received revelation. So that's another benefit for the believers, that Jibreel alayhissalaam brought the Quran, the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whom we love above and beyond all else. And what does a person want to do when they love someone is to communicate with them, to hear from them, to speak to them, and to hear their words. And the Quran brings that to us. The words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought to us through the revelation, and that revelation given to us through Jibreel alayhi salam. So Jibreel alayhi salam earns the love of the entire ummah for having done that. We also have a gratitude for the Quran in itself, that not only did Jibreel alayhi salam honor Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and bring revelation to him as he was the chosen prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so he received revelation because of Jibreel alayhi salam. But then we look at the fact that the actual revelation itself, which is the Quran, and that has guidance in it for all sorts of situations in life, for all kinds of turns in the life of this world. And in that is blessing. In that is barakah, that we follow in any situation we find ourselves in. We follow the advice, the nasiha, the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Jibreel had not come to Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if Jibreel did not then bring the Quran to him, we would not have had this book. We would not have had the kalam of Allah ta'ala. And so Jibreel has a double honor, that first he is honored to bring the revelation to the heart of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and therefore Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, being the chosen of Allah ta'ala, is honored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this manner. And secondly, the very revelation is the final revelation of Allah ta'ala. No more communication from Allah to mankind. No more communication from Allah Ta'ala to mankind. This was it, the Quran, His final say to mankind, His final message, His final guidance. And if we didn't have that, we would be left with guidance prior to the Quran, and this is important to take note of. Revelations that, yes, albeit by Jibreel Islam, brought to mankind from Allah Ta'ala, kalam of Allah Ta'ala, but they had been distorted. They had been distorted because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed its management to mankind. And of course, as we know, the stories of the previous religious scholars of previous faiths, they had distorted the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the word of Allah ta'ala. So the Quran being preserved was given to us. And so because of that, the Quran becomes incredibly special, because it is the only pure, unadulterated, unchanged word of Allah ta'ala, where we can say without any doubt that this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is His kalam, He is saying this to us, and we can trust it, believe it, follow it without question. We couldn't do that with the previous revelations. And so this is an extra honor for us. As for Mikael alayhissalaam, he brings risk to us in whatever form Allah Ta'ala decrees. Now, when that risk comes to us, prior to that, we're in need. We can be poor, we can be in poverty, we can be in need of whatever it is. We can be ill, we could be hungry, we could be in need of water, whatever it is, in all the different situations and circumstances that we as human beings find ourselves in, as believers, as Muslims around the world. And when Mikael alayhissalaam brings that risk to us, as I've said previously, that risk does not have to necessarily be food. It could be money, it could be water, it could be anything that is needed that increases our situation, makes it better for us. So hence, Mikael alayhissalaam bringing that risk to us is someone we are grateful to, because Apart from being the manifestation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is the answer to our du'as, it is the answer to our pleas to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of our desperate situations in whatever form they are in our lives. It could be illness, we need cure for illness. It could be any of these things, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows it to be delivered through Mikael alayhissalaam. Also, as I said previously, I wanted to touch on this again. It's an article of Iman to believe in angels. The angels, we have the Iman Mufassal, Amantu billahi wa malaikatihi wa rusulihi wa kutubihi, and so on. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this Amantu billahi wa malaikatihi. Immediately after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first pillar of Iman is belief in Allah, and the second pillar of Iman is belief in His angels. So if a person rebukes the angels, refuses the angels, then that is a pillar of Iman that has become destroyed, and all the pillars of Iman have to be in place in the heart of a believer for him or her to be classed as a believer. So to reject the angels is a rejection of Iman in total. I guess that helps you to understand why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would then refer to people who hate Jibreel and Mikael alayhissalaam as kafir, as disbelievers. Subhanallah. Further to this, apart from all the positive, there's always, of course, negatives. However, we can anger angels on occasions. There are certain things we can do, and as a result of that, it causes anger to the angels. Let's have a look at that. From the simple, to eat garlic or onion. Now, there's nothing wrong with garlic and onion. These are foods from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a part of His rizq. It's fine to flavor food and so on when we're making it. However, but to eat pure garlic or pure onion or something that's heavy in onion or garlic and then attend the salah, this is disliked by the angels. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us that angels do not like that you come to salah with the garlic or with the onion that you've eaten before coming to the salah. So you should wash your mouths out before you do that. For sisters to go out in public without hijab, this angers the angels. It angers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the angels bring the ghadab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon the head of a woman who goes out in public without hijab. This is again from the teachings of the deen from Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when a woman goes out of the home of her husband or her father, and she does so without hijab, then the ghadab of Allah, in fact, in some narration says the la'nat of Allah Ta'ala comes down over her head and remains over her head until she goes back indoors. So when women go out shopping, whatever it is, meeting friends, eating out, whatever it is, and they're without hijab, then the ghadab of Allah or the la'nat of Allah, the angels bring and it rains down on their heads until they return back inside, indoors, to their husband's house or their father's house. This is something which angers the angels. To commit sins, open or in secret, this angers the angels as well. Because, of course, committing sins is defiance of Allah Ta'ala. And the angels love Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And the angels love the goodness and greatness of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So when somebody does evil, darkness surrounds that people. And those people are in darkness themselves. It surrounds them, it envelopes them, it's in their heart, it's in their soul. It's like a patch. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that when a person commits a sin, a dark patch occurs on his soul. And if he commits another sin, another dark patch, and it continues until the whole soul can be blackened, darkened. So this committing of sins is disliked by the angels because they can see a pure soul, which is usually made of nur as well, becoming darkened by the sins. So the angels dislike this and angers them. The oppressing of orphans, yatim. The yatim, yatama are mentioned in the Quran so often. Entire surahs are sometimes devoted to them, where they're talked about in the sense that to look after them, to honor them, to do not oppress them, and do not make them feel neglected, but to take them in, adopt them, and foster them, and look after them, and allow them to have their own inheritance if they have, and so on. So this is something which is very important, and it angers the angels because orphans have no one, they have no parents, and they are innocent, oppressed children, and so this is a big thing in the sight of the angels. So these are other such acts angers the angels of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What helps is to be clean in body, heart, mind, and tongue. This invites the admiration and the company of angels. As I mentioned earlier about the Sahabi and his horse. So This is the sort of thing which, if believing people, if they are in wudu, in a state of wudu, that attracts angels. If they are clean in body, heart, and mind. Heart meaning that you have no negative feelings towards anybody, no hasd, no jealousy, no spite, no arrogance, no conceit. These hidden elements in the heart against people. You do not have these things. You clean your heart of these things, and you accept everyone. You have open-heartedness towards people. That invites the angel, because that's an angelic character, to not have any negative feelings, because angels have no negative feelings towards anybody. And all they can get, if they get angry, that's angry for the sake of Allah. That's a positive thing. But other than that, other than doing for Allah's sake, they do not do anything for their own sake. They have no nafs. Also a clean mind. So we do not plot and plan against people. We do not have a means of vengeance and revenge against people. We don't do that sort of thing. So that is another thing, to keep your mind clean and open about people. And of course, the tongue, to not swear, to mock, to ridicule, to be racist, to be, malicious in any manner, using words. That is also, if we keep our tongues clean, recitation of Allah Ta'ala's kalam, a zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, righteous nasiha to people. If these are the things that are on the tongue, then that tongue is a pure tongue, and the angels love such a person. To them, in fact, mood and sweet scents come out of the mouth of such a person for the angels. And even also, of course, during the state of fasting in Ramadan or at any other time, sweet scents that the angels can sense of the fasting person. So these things are what invites the angels. Finally, oppressed people invite the angels of Rahman, in the sense that when people are oppressed, when they are being tortured, or that there's hurt and violence going on upon them, then Allah Ta'ala sends His angels to give them merciful moments in their lives. He gives them mercy, He gives them protection. And we can see this in many times. We hear about, for example, earthquakes and volcanoes and something, things like that. And we hear about people who survive, and we hear incredible stories of miraculous ways that they survive. And of course, right now, with what's going on in Palestine and Gaza particularly, there are many accounts, subhanAllah, of angelic things happening. The mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that comes to these people, the saving of babies, the pulling out of people out of this rubble that's where the houses have collapsed because of the missiles and bombs that are being thrown at them, subhanAllah. And the rain that comes down when the water's been cut off, and the rain that comes down that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them. So the angels bring this down, and such people are blessed. And you can tell from their iman, from the way they respond to the oppression that they're feeling, the oppression that they're experiencing right now, that they're going through, that have been going through for so long, for weeks, for months in particular now, since October. And of course, for the last 70, 75 years, many of these people have lived through nothing but oppression, subhanAllah. But Allah Ta'ala sends angels, and many of them have stories to tell. There are incredible, miraculous stories of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in particular incidents where they are saved, where they are prevented from harm, where they are brought back out of the rubble, and so on. So it's incredible. But even those who pass away, subhanAllah, they pass away with smiles on their faces. This is also part of the blessing, because those angels come to them, come to their souls, and take them out in a gentle manner and take them up to the heavens for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's judgment. And many of them are shaheed. And as a result of that, subhanAllah, they only want to come back for one reason. They don't want to come back to this dunya, but if they ever have to, as the shuhada are known to have said, they say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let us die for you again. Let us live and die for you again the way we did, because that was so sweet, what a sweet moment was for us. So the angels come and they bring this rahmah for these people, and we know that this is there for the people in Gaza, and we should make dua for these people more so for Allah Ta'ala to complete His rahmah and lift them out of that oppression. But in the meantime, though, whether they live, whether they die, believing people, righteous people, have this angels of rahmah around them all the time, and their end is beautiful, that they go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, pleased and well pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is another aspect of the angels, subhanAllah. Finally, I just want to have a reflection upon this, that we should please the angels ourselves and invite their company by being righteous souls and ultimately pleasing Allah Ta'ala. This is the thing that is most important for us. All of us, no matter where we are, who we are, our life, our purpose is to please Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. We will all be tested. We will all have difficulties. We will all have oppression. We will all experience difficulties and harm and injury from time to time in our lives. And at the end of the day, when we go back to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, we will leave all this. And it won't matter. What will matter is how we lived our lives, not the difficulties. The difficulties will be just distant memories, not the hardships, not all the things that we suffered. That will be just distant memories. What will be important is how we lived our lives. Did we attach ourselves to the kalam of Allah Ta'ala, to our spiritual connection to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala? And this is something which many of the ulama are saying, even now with what's going on in Gaza, that it is a reminder to us. And subhanAllah, for everyone, it seems, for everyone over there that is passing away, there are people around in the world that are taking shahada, becoming Muslim. So Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is replacing believing souls with believing souls. So it's going on, subhanAllah, still in this dunya. It's still going on that there are believing souls. And if a believing soul leaves, then more believing souls come in his or her place, subhanAllah. So this is the reality, the traveling of souls back and forth from this world back to the other world, from that world to this world, and back again. So that's the reality of the life of this world. That's why we're here. We're here to experience the righteousness and goodness of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and to keep in that tie, that connection to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, that spiritual connection. And yes, we want to know what's happening. We want to know what's happening in the world. We want to know what's happening in the places where Muslims are harmed. And there are many places apart from Gaza: Kashmir, Chechnya, Bosnia, Xinjiang, Myanmar, subhanAllah, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Sudan, subhanAllah. And it's all part of the imtihan, the test of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And we should maintain our understanding, the ultimate understanding, that we are here for a time and we will go back. And what will matter to us is not all these things that happened to us in this dunya, but how we responded. Did we hold on to the fact, the truth, the ultimate truth, that we are souls and we are here for a time and we're going to go back to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala? Or did we forget that and become rejecting, as the Bani Israeel did, rejecting the decisions and the wisdom of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala? It is His right. We belong to Him. We belong to Him and we will return to Him. It is His right to test us, and it's only right to test us because we want to know who we are ourselves. We want to know for ourselves, do we really believe? Because many of us want to say that we do and want to believe that we do, but sometimes when we're put in tests, we fail the test. We fail the test. So we must always remember Allah Ta'ala's taqdeer above us and maintain our connection to Him, and understand that the angels are a manifestation of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala's rahmah and His barakah and His rizq and His taqdeer ultimately. And we should keep ourselves connected to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala through the book of Allah Ta'ala. We can learn about things, we can learn what's going on in the world, we can learn what's happening where Muslims are oppressed, we can try to help them in whatever we want to. Alhamdulillah, that's all good, everything's good. But we must remember, ultimately, they who are oppressed and we who are trying to help them, we are all going to die. And we are all going to return to our soul condition, and in that soul condition we are going to go back to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, just as we came from Him in that soul condition and were inserted into the wombs of our mothers. We will return in the same manner. Our connection to this body will be removed, but our connection to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala should always be maintained. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala give us tawfiq to understand and to benefit, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.